I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Meanakeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with a pregame edition of Patriots Daily here on the CLNS Media Network, powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. We'll talk about them later. But Taylor, let's set the scene first for Patriots versus Bears coming up at 1 p.m. Patriots 2-7, Bears 4-4, 4-0 at home. So seemingly have the advantage today at Soldier Field. The main story is these quarterbacks, number 1 overall pick, number 3 overall pick. But we'll save that. We talked about that a little bit. So before we sit here, react to some inactives coming up at 11:30. Let's talk about some moves the Patriots have made since our last show on Thursday. The big one, I would say, they claim defensive end Yannick Ngakoue off waivers. He was released by the Ravens earlier this week. 29 years old. He was a Pro Bowler in 2017. 69 career sacks. So some help off the edge for the Patriots as they try and fill the void after trading Joshua Uche at the trade deadline. The move that they make in turn is releasing Raekwon McMillan, linebacker, who had some ups and downs this season, I would say, but still they've had ups and downs in the entire room, right? Juwan Bentley goes down, Sione Takitaki dealing with injury. Christian Ellis is going to be out today. So they elevate Joe Giles Harris from the practice squad to help fill that void after releasing McMillan. They also call up Mitchell Wilcox from the practice squad for today's game in Chicago. So a lot of moves there, Taylor, but want to get your reaction specifically to McMillan being out the door, as well as Yannick Ngakoue coming in here and trying to bolster the pass rush.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with Ngakoue before I get into all the moves with players that were already on the team. Was really needed. The Patriots don't have a ton of depth. You kind of feel bad for Ngakoue because it was reported that if he hadn't gotten claimed by the Patriots, he would have gotten claimed by the Bengals. It's still been in the same division, maybe had a revenge game. I don't know if the Bengals and the Ravens play again, but also would be on a team that's still competing. Now he's on a 2-win team.
And the other part of that, too, and we talked about it on our show the other day, I think, and if not, we talked about it behind the scenes, but after the trade deadline, players, no matter if they're a vested veteran or not, are subject to waivers. They don't just get cut and are free to sign with the team. So Ngakoue also, if he wasn't going to get claimed, I think it was reported that he would have signed with Baltimore's practice squad and been back with them. So 2 Super Bowl contenders there for him. Instead, he has to come to the lowly 2-7 Patriots.
Yeah, it's tough for him, but it's good for the Pats who had very little depth on the edge. Now, obviously, you got Keon White, but really he's at his best as an interior pass rusher. So really you were seeing more of Anthony Jennings and Dietrich Wise on the outside. But Anthony Jennings obviously is starting to look a little better as a pass rusher now that his role has expanded and he's gotten more opportunities to get after the passer, but also has played almost every snap for the defense the past 2 weeks. That's probably not sustainable, especially for a guy who missed a game earlier this season. I believe it was with a shoulder injury. Then Dietrich Wise, another guy where you don't want him on the field, quite as much as I think he has been. So helps them out a lot. And the Patriots, even if God forbid one of those guys went down, they didn't really have anybody else to turn to. You've got guys like Curtis Jacobs and O'Shawn Mathis, but neither one of those guys has really shown that they can be a consistent edge presence. So with Yannick, I figure he probably goes into Joshua Uche's role as a pass rusher. Probably not going to drop into coverage the same way we saw with Uche, where they were lining him and Keon White up inside and they're dropping into cover 2. I don't think we'll see a ton of that from Ngakoue. I feel like his role is really just going to be hey, obvious pass situation, get out there. He can win on the outside. He's got a really good cross chop. He can win inside with spin moves, and he can win down the middle with power. So a diverse pass rusher with got a lot of experience. Also a potential plus for guys like Keon White, where that he struggled a bit on the edge. He talked about it since the summer. When it comes to rushing the passer from that position, he's not quite as nuanced. So maybe Ngakoue can give him some tips because, Jennings isn't really a diverse pass rusher, really more of a guy who wins in a couple of ways. And then Dietrich Wise, really skilled in his own right, but not quite as explosive as a Keon White, probably a closer physical skill set to Keon. So I really like that move. Obviously, they needed it. Now, when you talk about Raekwon McMillan, didn't really surprise me. He's gotten so much praise for his work behind the scenes. The Patriots have shown a lot of loyalty to him, re-signing him after more than one season-ending injury. I know he's done a lot to help develop younger guys, but at the same time, against the run, he's been a really big liability. He's had his moments in coverage at times, but also last week, gave up the play on the double pass, unfortunately. It was a tough one. I don't really want to throw that on him, but still did lose his man, and it led to a big play. So Maybe he comes back in some capacity just because it feels like he's one of those guys that the Patriots may value more than anybody else. Also don't know if he'd get an opportunity to play anywhere else. So that move did make sense. And now we saw the elevation of Joe Giles Harris and Mitchell Wilcox. I think those two specifically have to do with special teams because Christian Ellis is going to be out with an abdomen injury. And then obviously no Raekwon McMillan. Those guys were third, McMillan, and then fourth with Ellis in special team snaps, I believe, this season. So going to get Giles Harris and Mitchell Wilcox in there to probably fill those voids. When it comes to actually playing on defense, I don't think it's going to be a ton of Giles Harris. Probably going to be a lot more Sione Takitaki than we've seen in recent weeks. I know he's still getting his feet under him, trying to learn the playbook and everything. So that'll be an interesting situation. And then Mitchell Wilcox, my initial response was, oh, maybe he's going to play and they're just going to go heavy this week.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it, I was like, it's probably going to be more special teams because they like their linemen and they've got plenty of linemen. So probably more likely to go that direction than put Wilcox on the field, especially as we know Jaheim Bell showing up on special teams, more and more of a role on offense. So more likely going to see him with Wilcox again filling on those special teams roles.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Jaheim Bell aspect of that because obviously, Wilcox is more of the blocking tight end versus Jaheim Bell is more of that, H-back type role where you don't necessarily see Bell in a lot of blocking situations, but there's been a lot of momentum with Jaheim Bell lately. I know Mike Reese put it in his Sunday notes today that their tight ends coach, Bob McNell, has said that he's light years ahead of where he was in the past or when he came onto the team during the summer, rather. And also someone who so I think he saw a season high in snaps last week, caught a pass. I know it was like one catch for 1 yard on one target, whatever.
Missed a block, poor guy.
Exactly. But it seems like there's a lot of momentum towards Jaheim Bell being that third tight end and them kind of with Jalen Polk, with Javon Baker, kind of get those young guys into the offense as they start to I don't want to say lose the season. That's not the right way to put it. But, you're 2-7. You're not necessarily playing for playoffs here. So go get those young guys and get them ingrained in your offense. So before we got about 4 minutes until inactives come out. We'll talk about prize picks and game time in a second. But I do want to get your thoughts on this Patriots offensive line. Now, we don't have reports yet out of Chicago about who they have out there as their starting five offensive line. But we saw earlier this week that Mike Onwenu was playing some left guard. He has been, on the right side of the line all season at guard and tackle. They moved him over to left guard for a little bit in practice this week with Layden Robinson playing on the right side. However, on Friday, they moved it back where they had Michael Jordan back on the left side. Layden Robinson was out and Mike Onwenu was back at right guard. So there's been a lot of flip-flopping. If Onwenu does play left guard this week, it would be their 9th offensive line combination in 10 weeks. Long story short, all of this, they continue to try and find that right combination in front of Drake May. What do you make of all the switching, Taylor? We talked about it a little bit earlier in one of our stand-ups down in Foxborough, but now that we're about an hour and a half from game time, what do you think they're going to do? What do you think they should do? And how can they best protect Drake May this week?
So when it comes to the fact that we saw a totally different lineup on Friday, I'm starting to think that's maybe their contingency plan because it would either mean that or Layden, or they're messing with us, as we know, like Belichick was privy to do. I don't know if the Pats under Mayo would do that. We'll find out. But we also heard from Scott Peters about contingency plans when we spoke to him on Friday. Could just mean, hey, if Layden Robinson struggles again, we have to, have some kind of other switch up, and that would lead to Michael Jordan because, as we know, both Mayo and Scott Peters called him a relatively inexperienced player, which to me says he's struggling to pick up the strike system that, other people had success with, like Badarian Lowe, like Michael Jordan for a time, and some of those older guys who really kind of latched onto it quicker. So, look, something needed to happen at left guard. I said it. I know Nate Tice actually said the same thing a couple of days ago when he heard about the Onwenu news that just Michael Jordan has been a massive liability the past 2 weeks. Did exceed expectations early on this season when he's been in the lineup, but really it's just something had to be done. So you think, okay, you put Layden Robinson at left guard because you don't want to move Mike Onwenu from his best position again. But Scott Peters told us that, with Layden, it's already tough for a rookie. We don't want to make things even harder by putting him in a spot where he's uncomfortable. Like the guy's bringing through a fire hose. He may not be great at right guard right now, but like we said, he may not even be functional over on the left side, and that needs to be taken into account. And Mike Onwenu hasn't played there since 2021, obviously got benched and did say that he was uncomfortable. I'm sure he's going to be uncomfortable again because he hasn't played that spot in a while. But at the same time, at least he's still a good football player. He's going to make it work, even if there are some growing pains. But the run game needs to get going. The interior pass protection needs to be better. We saw quick losses from Michael Jordan and Layden Robinson. This isn't a great Bears interior either without Andrew Billings. Really, the heat's more coming from the outside with Montez Sweat, Darnell Taylor, guys like that. So Demontre Jacobs, who played pretty well last week, Darian Lowe, those guys need to do their jobs, probably going to be on islands a decent amount, protect Drake May. Hopefully the pocket's more firm and they can get this run game going with two of their big maulers on the inside.
Yep. Again, we talked about it in our stand-up the other day. I feel like I'm okay now at this point with the rotations at the offensive line. It's kind of where the season's at right now for the Patriots, where try and find the best fit, experiment with different things, experiment with different matchups. And then next week, or next season rather, you kind of get those, hopefully bring in someone in free agency, draft a couple guys, and go from there and really get a secure first five in front of Drake May. So we do have inactives out for the Patriots and the Bears. We'll react to those in a second. But before we do, a quick word from our friends at Prize Picks and Game Time. First, Prize Picks, they're the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. They have Prize Picks makes daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just got to pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win 100 times your cash. So join us and run your game all season long. On Prize Picks, myself and Taylor put out a Prize Picks lineup for our Pat's Daily Show. That'll be out soon on social media, so make sure you follow along there. And if you want to get in and join on the winnings with us, just sign up today on Prize Picks. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win that first lineup. You just receive the $50 bonus automatically. So again, if you're going to join in on Prize Picks with us, download the app today and use that code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We're also...
Can we look at the question in the comment real quick?
Yeah, what do you got?
So I feel like we actually talked about this at work on Friday with some of our colleagues. Why don't sports reporters do what other reporters do and be more abrasive in questions? You see the offensive line switches as weakness of the staff, where inconsistency is key. Is it relationships? We literally work in a relationships business. I know people want us to go in there like guns blazing and just, ask these questions in sometimes really aggressive ways. You do not want to be abrasive, because if you do, people will think that you're coming at it from a bad place, and then they won't want to answer your questions. Now, that being said, I think we ask tough questions as well. Like with the offensive line switches, I know I asked Rod Mayo after the Titans game why he put Layden Robinson in. I've asked him what the reasoning was. I think we kind of peppered him with plenty of questions about what exactly is happening. I think we also just understand the reality of this is not something they're doing because they want to. I think Gerard Mayo said it, Scott Peters said it. This has really been circumstantial, where they've had so many injuries. They haven't really had a choice. The only time I think they really made a bad call with the offensive line in the rotation was putting Layden in against Jeffrey Simmons, which, again, I asked Gerard Mayo about after the game. It was my first question to him. So, I understand the perspective of people wanting us to maybe ask it the way that fans want to ask, but we see these people every day. We are allowed to be firm in our questioning, and I think we are, but, just for another perspective, from our perspective, you don't want to be abrasive with people that you work with, in period, especially when, if you create some reputation for yourself as someone who doesn't treat them with respect, they're going to respond in kind and probably not give you the kind of answers.
You're not going to get if you don't ask questions with respect, you're not going to get the answer you want, because they're not going to return the respect back the other way. So
it's a fair question. It is
a fair question. I agree. And that's a good answer to it, I think, too, Taylor. All right. One more. We're powered by Game Time here as well on Patriots Press Pass and Patriots Daily. Game Time is the best ticketing app out there right now. If you are in Chicago and haven't got tickets yet to Patriots vs. Bears, you can do so on the Game Time app for as little as $217. Not too shabby, just 90 minutes before game time. If you want to go to Patriots versus Rams next week at Gillette, they're as little as $80 on the Game Time app right now. They have all-in pricing on the app, so you know exactly what you're going to pay. There's no hidden fees, none of that nonsense on the Game Time app. It just tells you what you owe. They also have their famous Game Time Picks feature that filters out the fluff, showing you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So if you want to get in on the action and get to the game with us, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app right now and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it, Taylor?
Game time.
It is game time. It's also perfect timing to react to these Patriots inactives today in Chicago. We have Tyquan Thornton out. Joe Milton III is your emergency QB. Kyle Duggar, Christian Ellis, we knew of. Tyrese Robinson, new offensive line this week, is also inactive, along with Eric Johnson, and as we knew, Yannick Ngakoue. So I think the big takeaway here, KJ Osborne back in the lineup for the Patriots. Kind of makes sense knowing that Ngakoue was going to be out, Duggar and Ellis. You kind of, you work the depth chart in different situations, and it looks like Thornton is the lone healthy scratch at wide receiver. So your thoughts on Osborne being back in the lineup? Do you think that's more so just a precautionary depth thing? Do you think he'll get some playing time? What do you make of what's your quick reaction to these?
Yeah, looking at the rest of the players, I think it might have just been a numbers thing.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, like Tyquan Thornton obviously is the lowest man on the totem pole. We've seen that. Joe Milton, obviously emergency third quarterback. I would never try to say that 10 times fast. Kyle Duggar obviously hurt. Christian Ellis, those two are already ruled out. Tyrese Robinson just got here, although we have seen them, like with Lacita Smith. I think he got here kind of relatively short notice and played that week. But Tyrese Robinson maybe needs to catch up to the playbook. Eric Johnson's kind of been in and out of the lineup, so that one makes more sense, especially with Jaquelin Roy has been playing very, very well. And then Ngakoue, we knew that he was ruled out yesterday. So I don't think we're going to see KJ Osborne, maybe, especially because, again, we talked about it. There's a chance that the reason we didn't see him or we didn't see him get released after the trade deadline was so that he will have his choice of teams. So, if he does play, I wonder if that means maybe they're actually thinking of keeping him. Right. I know we kind of talked about it where if they just felt like they didn't have to move on or KJ really is fine staying here, I think they'd be better off getting rid of Thornton because even though he has the longer deal, I don't think he's as functional a player as KJ Osborne. Obviously, he's been a very solid number 4 for the Vikings. But yeah, we'll see. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's nothing terribly shocking. I feel like we've gotten – shocking's not the right word, but we've gotten some each week where it's like, oh, wow, that's something different where Kyle Duggar, we weren't really sure of his status a few times, and then he ends up being out, game time decision. We knew of that. This week, obviously, so I would say the big one here is KJ Osborne back in the lineup. You mentioned, we talked about Ngakoue not being able to choose his own team because he'd be subject to waivers. KJ Osborne is in that same boat for the Patriots right now where doesn't want to be here, maybe strong, but he, frankly, I don't think he wants to be here in the most respectable way possible. He would rather go out
playing.
Exactly. He wants to be playing. And so if they cut him right now, he is subject to waivers. And so maybe they keep him, see what they have for the rest of the season. Maybe he gets some playing time. Maybe he's just a depth piece. So we'll obviously have to see once that happens. Inactives for Chicago, Taylor, Jaquan Brisker, Noah Sewell, Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones, old friend Amir Speed, Kieran Amedeji, Nate Davis, and then Darrell Taylor, who you mentioned earlier. He is also inactive for the Bears today. So some interesting news there where
Andrew Billings playing?
Say that again.
Is Andrew Billings playing?
He might have been put on IR.
Yeah. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. So instant reaction to the Bears inactives. We'll do that before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really no surprises there either. Jaquan Brisker, that's a pretty big one for them. I know that I forget which coach it was. I think it was Bob Bicknell, actually, who specifically mentioned him. So probably someone they were thinking would be a threat, especially as a blitzer. I know they send him a decent amount. The other ones, really no surprises. The offensive line for the Bears, like the Patriots, has been kind of a mess with the injury situation. Yeah, so could be a huge game for Keon White. Could be a good game for Anthony Jennings and Dietrich Wise. You got a lot of inexperienced players or players that don't at least have a lot of starting experience that are going to be asked to step up. So let's see. Maybe the Patriots, they actually did have one of their best pass rushing performances of the season against the Titans. Maybe they can string a couple good ones together. And then obviously Montez Sweat going to be active, so that's going to be a very big challenge over on the right side of the offensive line for DeMontre Jacobs and Layden Robinson.
Seems like Drake May and Caleb Williams both running around for their lives today in Chicago. So we'll see what happens there. So before we get out of here, Taylor, that's the inactives. That's all the stuff we hit on with the Patriots roster moves. What's your prediction for today's game? Patriots versus Bears. Who wins this one, and how do they win it?
Oh, man. This is tough.
Kind of put you on the spot there. We weren't prepped for this, but what are you thinking? Okay. What are the vibes going in? You got any thoughts?
I'll go 2017 Patriots, just because I feel like the offense for the Bears is just coordinated very poorly, and I think the Patriots have enough dudes in their secondary that they'll be able to take advantage of that. Now, it's going to be tough, obviously, corralling Caleb Williams, but they've done a pretty good job recently keeping guys in the pocket outside of like one scramble for Mason Rudolph last week. And, the offense, I don't know, man. I feel like Javon Baker's going to have a bigger role. I think he's going to give us a couple big plays. It's so hard to predict with this team because you don't know if they're going to be able to run, if they're going to be able to stop the run and all that. But you know what? Screw it. They're facing a rookie quarterback, so I'm picking with my heart. I'm going to go Pats 2017.
All right, I'm going to go similar, but I'm going to go Bears 24, Patriots 20, a competitive game. I think the Patriots show some life, continue to on offense with that youth movement. 6 wide receivers active and 4 tight ends active. We'll see some Jaheim Bell. We'll obviously see hopefully some Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. Maybe they finally flip or turn the tide here and get some things going. But 24-20, Patriots play competitive, lose, help their draft position, but also show why Drake May is the future of this team. Me and Taylor, along with John Zanis, I believe, will be back for Patriots post-game today, right after the game. So make sure you keep it here on Patriots Press Pass for all of your Patriots coverage. Patriots taking on the Chicago Bears today at 1 p.m. at Soldier Field. Big matchup between the number 1 overall pick in 2024 and the number 3 overall pick in Drake May. So see what happens there. Like I said, we'll be back on post game. So keep it here for all of it. Until then, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you next time. Peace out, everyone.